My name is Jade, owner and principal planner of Joyful Events by Jade, and this is The Cookie Table. This is a podcast all about love, marriage, relationships, and the wedding industry, wedding news. Perfect for anyone that is getting married, is married, a wedding vendor, or someone that just loves weddings. Grab your favorite cookie from The Cookie Table, pour yourself a glass of Chardonnay, and let's get into it. Welcome to my little at-home green screen. I am Jade, owner and principal planner of Joyful Events by Jade. And if you have been listening since I started this podcast in July, thank you for being understanding of my inconsistencies these last few weeks. If you are a wedding vendor, you know that the fall season in Pittsburgh can really kind of get to you, and it's a lot. My son is 18 months. Again, if you have been listening, you're pretty aware that I don't have him in full time childcare, so getting a chance to even go to the studio has been a little bit tough during this really busy fall season. But Joyful Events by Jade, we had our last wedding of the season on November 2nd, and it was a great one to end it with. We had a lovely time at the aviary, good time, some Rachel Roland photography. It was great. So I feel like my head is slightly above water again. I enjoy planning season. I love kind of being able to relax and focus on design clients and full scale clients. So that's what we're getting into. But I have decided I am going to take January pretty much as off as I can. I'm obviously still going to maintain things. Any meetings that need to happen will happen, but I'm going to take a lot of time off in January or December. I'm really going to enjoy the holidays and really immerse myself into that with my family this year. Last year, Jax was so young. He didn't really understand Christmas. So this year, I'm just more excited for it. I think he's going to enjoy it more. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. So I'm going to take some time off. And if you are feeling burnt out and you want to do the same, I highly encourage you to, if you are able to do that, don't kill yourself over your business or your work. Work life balance is so important. And I will preach that until I'm blue in the face. You have to have life outside of your work. So I urge you to enjoy your December and time with your loved ones, family, friends. Have martini mistletoe party, whatever it is. Go do it and have fun. Last week, aside from kind of having a hard time getting to the studio, um, last week, like I said, it didn't feel right to put out an episode and just act like the day after the election, nothing happened and everyone and everything is fine. I think your feelings are incredibly valid on the election. I am choosing joy. I'm trying my hardest to choose positivity and joy in this weird election season. This is not a political podcast. It just doesn't feel right kind of talking so lightly about, oh, let's talk about kids at weddings and the day after an election where I know people are hurting at the results. With that being said, again, this is not a political podcast. It never will be. It is a wedding and relationship podcast. And I don't want this to always just be about weddings. I've said this multiple times before. I want this to also be about the relationship and life part of the podcast, where once you get married, life then happens. There are things that can happen in life. Maybe your partner voted for the person you didn't vote for. Maybe you have family members that are heavily affected and scared for what is to come because of who got elected. Um, we need to take in consideration everyone's feelings about this. I think we need to all take a step back and preach more kindness and love your neighbor as you love yourself is incredibly important to me, regardless of how I'm feeling. Um, we're all human, and I think I wanted to take this week to kind of tell a really personal story because, again, life happens after the wedding day. Life isn't just all sunshines and rainbows. Things are going to happen. And again, staying kind of away as much as possible from the politics of this, it just inspired me to talk about something that is a conversation, unfortunately, in politics. So I thought I get a little bit personal if you're open to that. I do want to preface this as a trigger warning. I am putting a trigger warning on this episode for miscarriage. If you are triggered by this, please stop the episode. Um, I'll give you a moment. I'm going to grab my glass of water here and I'll give you a moment to kind of exit out of the episode. But I am putting a heavy trigger warning on miscarriage. I and I just feel like I don't know, it's important to talk about when you have a platform to talk about taboo, so to speak, subjects. And I think miscarriage is something that people feel uncomfortable talking about, or they just kind of hide in their experience, and maybe their spouse or a close family member is really the only one that knows that this happened. Um, but it's a taboo subject, and I don't really fully understand why, because miscarriage is very common. The new statistics are 3 in 5 pregnancies will end in a miscarriage, which don't let that scare you, obviously, out of having children if you want children. But it's very, very common, and there's not even really a lot of answers as to why. So for me personally, yes, there was a baby that Jason and I lost before Jax. We were very grateful. We got married April of 22. Um, and I decided to go off of the pill 2 years before we even got married to allow some of my system to regulate, so to speak. And I was able to track my cycle. With that being said, I knew I was ovulating on our honeymoon, and Jason and I, very, very blessed and grateful, we went into having children as we know we want at least one. We're not going to put a lot of pressure on it. We're not going to necessarily actively really try. We are just going to see what happens. If it doesn't happen and it's not meant for us to be, then it is what it is. That's how we entirely went into that. Shockingly, we did conceive on our honeymoon. We could not fucking believe it. Um, we had no idea it was going to that was going to happen. So we were very grateful. As most of you, I'm sure, may know, if you do have children, that uh, they don't want to see you in the doctor's office for like 8 to 10 weeks after your quote unquote missed period. Um, we set the appointment to confirm the pregnancy, and it ended up being around the 10-week mark of where I would have been far along. So you sit there, you do everything right, you're really, really patient for that appointment, and you get to the appointment. Jason and I are so excited. You know, I've never been through anything like this before. So we're just happy go lucky. Oh my gosh, today's the day. We're going to find out like how our baby's doing. And we go into the office, and my OBGYN was doing the ultrasound with that kind of shitty ultrasound machine. So, they're not basically very good. And she's very quiet and she's very awkward, and we could tell something's wrong. So we finally like, do you want to tell us what you're seeing or what the issue is? And she said that our baby was measuring small and she couldn't detect a heartbeat. She said it's possible we got our conception timeline wrong and the baby was actually smaller than I was earlier on than led on to be. And sometimes they can't detect a heartbeat if that's the case. So she was basically trying to give us some hope. Um, Going back to what I said, I tracked my cycle very well, so I knew that wasn't possible. So my gut was telling me obviously something was very wrong. And in the medical field, if they call stat of anything, that's not a good sign. So she called a stat ultrasound up in the radiology department. So like the really good high tech ultrasounds to get extra confirmation. We waited around for a few hours. We were there for a while for our appointment. We just sat in the hospital praying, and we get up there, and the confirmation was at our 10-week appointment that our baby had no heartbeat and was measuring at 8 weeks along. So, what that means, which was surprising to me, was our baby passed at 8 weeks. And I had no idea. My body had no idea. It was showing no pain or no signs of this loss.
Um, it was very shocking, as you can imagine, to both my husband and I. But one thing that I learned going through that is no one really understands or talks about having a missed miscarriage, is what they call it. Both my sister and my mom are nurses, and they were surprised as well. They said they've never really heard of that. Um, so I feel like there's just not enough education around that. I was in a little bit of like a Facebook support group for a while, and several women said the same. I've never heard of this. I didn't know this was a thing. No one talks about this. So, again, I just think it's really important to speak on subjects that people might find uncomfortable. But I want you to know if you went through this or have gone through this, or this is something that hurt you in your life, you're not alone. You're not alone. To get into kind of today's uncomfortable political climate is Um, again, but not getting too much into it because love is love here. We're trying to try to spread some positivity and happiness. But I think when it comes to the election and voting for people, we all tend to vote on someone for one or two main reasons. You know, you will probably be able to give me one really, really strong reason why you voted for a candidate. Um, I think we need to be more kind and understanding that people go through shit. There's a lot of reasons why someone has that reason, and a lot of it is personal. We're all humans. I think people are selfish. At the end of the day, a lot of humans are selfish. So you're going to vote for a reason that benefits you as an individual for the most part, or you strongly believe in something so much that you are fighting for it and advocating for it. Um, with that being said, when my doctor called me and confirmed the results, she gave me basically four options to how to proceed through this loss. I could take a pill and things could happen naturally. I could just sit at home and wait until it happens by itself, and that could take another several weeks. Oh, I could do a DNC, which I would go into an operating room. She'd schedule OR time. She'd put me fully under anesthesia to remove everything. Or the last option she called an MVA. Again, kind of trigger warning on some terms here, but manual vacuum aspiration. And she heard the pain in my voice and she said, "You can come in today at 1 o'clock." Because I told her I don't want to wait another week for the OR. I don't also want to go under anesthesia. This actually makes a lot of sense. So I was able to, at that day, hours later, go right into her office at 1 o'clock. She did local anesthesia. So she numbed me down there. Um, and we did the procedure right in the office to be able to move on and to start that healing process. Um, when, because I was awake during this whole procedure, we were talking and I said, "How come I've never heard of this? Like, how did I not know this was a procedure?" And she said, "A lot of doctors don't believe in it or don't offer it because it is considered an abortion procedure." Um, which I thought was kind of crazy because obviously, in my sense, it was my care, right? So I thanked her up and down, and she told me that family members were treated really badly with their care in the past, and that's what made her want to be an OBGYN. So she was able to offer me some things, so I was able to start to heal mentally and physically from this loss. She told me that there are a lot of doctors that won't do any type of procedure at all, and you have to just go home with this loss and patiently wait for it to happen naturally. So you could be at target um, and you can begin to go through that active process of miscarrying essentially. So in my opinion, I think that's really messed up. Why, so then you're upset and you're anxious for another several weeks. Um, when you do that at home, it can become dangerous. You can lose a lot of blood, you can hemorrhage. It could not be good if you go through that at home, or again, you're in the middle of grocery shopping for God's sake. Uh, and this could start to happen. You're not with your spouse, whatever the case is. Given what I went through, that makes absolutely zero sense to me. So, shout out to McGee Women's Hospital and the care that they were able to give me, not just through that, but through my whole pregnancy and delivery with my son now, Jax. It makes no sense to me that we were even voting on these things, that it's even part of the political climate, because to me it's just care, and you should be able to present a person with all of their options, and they should have that decision to choose. And I'm forever grateful that I was given that option, because I was able to start that healing process and begin to grieve with my husband and move on in a safe way as well, that I wasn't just waiting again for something to happen on my own. Um, so I think I felt very inclined to share this, because again, no matter who you voted for, we need to show more love to people that didn't vote the way you voted, and understand maybe there's a reason why they voted that way. And, um, I understand that these decisions have gone back to the states. But again, why are we even voting on it at all is just my very, very strong opinion. I think it's ridiculous. It should just be a part of your care. Truly, I do. Um, some people say, oh, if you live in a state where they don't allow it, just move. Well, it's not that easy if you think about it. Your whole life, you live in a state, you want to have a family there, you want to start your own life with your new family, and you get this news on the drop of a dime. I mean, this happened within 2 days, literally, that we found this out. So, you shouldn't have to uproot your entire life and live somewhere else on a what if you would go through something like that. So, um, I think we need to just kind of put our own thoughts and feelings aside. Think that understand that other people go through things and are going through it, and sometimes their vote may be based on their own personal experience and why they feel that way. And again, this is on either side. I just felt very inclined to talk about this, because when it comes to a wedding relationship podcast, this is the relationship part of the podcast. And I want people to know they're not alone um, and these types of things. And obviously, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm super, super grateful for McGee. Um, Obviously for my husband, for us going through this together. And um, our son is now 18 months, who we love very, very much. And he's incredible. So um, if you are still feeling off based on the election results, if you're not feeling well, um, please reach out to me as a friend. I'm here to talk. You know me by now, Joyful Events by Jade and Brie and Baskets. We are all inclusive, love is love companies as well. We are here for you. We will always be here for you. I really appreciate you being a part of my journey and supporting my businesses and my family, and being a part of this cookie table podcast community and this little family that we've created of our listeners. I think you're incredible. And, again, you listening to my story today means more than you know, but I want to spread that. I just want to spread taboo subjects that shouldn't be taboo. We need to talk about it. We need to understand everybody's sides. And I'm a very, very logical person. I've always been very logical. I've always been someone to kind of, you need to give me the numbers and look at the facts, and let's talk about this. And I'm gonna bluntly ask you questions, and sometimes people might not like that, but um, it's just all about kind of seeing both sides of it. And this could potentially be perceived as one of those sides. It's just something that because of my personal experience, wanted to share with you, and thank you for listening. As we go into the next couple of weeks, I'm going to finish out some fun at home conversations until Thanksgiving. And then, like I said, I am going to take all of December off. So that means from the podcast as well. And then January, we are going to start probably mid January ish, after some time off and wedding vendors get to recoup. We're going to start having some really great conversations with more amazing guests back in the studio. I might go down to two uh, episodes a month, or I might keep it to 4, but every other being a solo episode. If you have any feedback or preference, let me know. It can just be a little tough getting to the studio once a week. But other than that, I'm loving this. I hope you're loving it too. Thank you for being part of this community. Joyful Events by Jade has a little bit of exciting changes coming. We're going to be working with Angela Pro Design starting at the end of this week on a few things. So I can't wait to unveil that for you. I hope your wedding season, if you're a vendor, is coming to a nice, close end and you get to relax. If you listen to this because you know you're going to get engaged soon, but you're not yet, I hope you an engagement season. You might be a part of that coming up next month. And if you're planning, enjoy the process. Remember, everything's okay. We're here to help you if you're looking for it. Just try to enjoy the process, and this wedding is for you. But I cannot thank you enough again for listening and being a part of this conversation. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again next week.